Today we're going to have a different format of what you got used with me about preaching. Today you're going to work with me today. So you have an insert in your bulletin, okay? This is your homework. This is what you're going to do with me right now. So, okay? So the whole time you listen to me, this time I'm going to listen to you. So I want you to see, what are you seeing in this picture? And I do expect an answer. So look at the picture. Whatever you see, tell me, what do you see there? Maybe I need to come closer so I can listen to all of you. Okay. I heard something here. Angel, okay. Wings. That's the common thing. You see that? All of them have wings, right? Okay. What else? The horse in the middle. The cross. Do you see that? Yeah, the big cross. You see? That's unite and divide them at the same time, right? So what's the features? What do you see on each feature there? Book. That's another common thing. All these features holding something that looks like a book. This is one of the oldest icons that we have that can go back at least more than 1,000 years. We know that some of them even exist older than that. Maybe just standing here making things not good. So this is how the early church learned about the Gospels. So as you see this one, that looks like a man or an angel, the first one, okay? And the second one, if you look closer, it's a face of a lion. If you look at the third one, it's the face of an ox or calf. The fourth one is an eagle. So all this was the earliest way Christians learned about the Gospels. Why? Because they did not have Bibles like us today. With nothing. We forgot that printing only exists in only in the 1600s. We forgot that with nothing, only 10% of the whole world know how to read and write. And the only way they know how to read and write, only in Greek. Greek was the internet. Like today, if you want to do anything, you need to learn English, regardless of where you are. So Greek was the international language at this time, even we're talking about the Roman time. So as you see that, so with no access actually to book. So when you go to church and look, you can tell what's from the picture. Today, as Protestant, I know we have a lot of prejudice about these icons or these things. But actually, if we try to be more honest and be kind of like, see it from a different perspective. This was the early illustration, and people who teach kids, they know that, and Jan, how was it amazing when the church found out about having a Bible just only about pictures for the kids. We remember that was an amazing idea because kids are really more related to the image. You can say millions of words, but when you give them an image, it sticks with their head and you can create their own story. And I was surprised to know that actually church did that 2,000 years ago. When they did that on the church, when you go in a church, you will figure out from what you are seeing as the message. So in this picture is a summary of the four Gospels. In this picture that you see, the image of a man or angel, that's the debate. But really, when you see that I know this is a refer to Gospel according to Matthew. Because he's reflecting the idea that Matthew is trying to teach us. And it's about Jesus as the Son of Man. So he's reflecting the human face. The second one, if I see the face of the lion, that's referring to Mark. So I know now he's talking about the book of Mark. And the lion is really referring to the tribe of Judah, the courage, the strength, the resurrection, the lion that's asleep with one eye open, one eye is closed. There is referral to Christ being, he never died, he died, but he defeated death. So when you see the image, that I know, I have no idea, but I know this is a referral to the book, the Gospel of Mark. When I see the calf here, I know this is Luke. Why? Because Luke is all through all the Gospel is trying to teach us about Christ sacrificing himself for humanity. And if you are a good Jew, to do a sacrifice, you need to have an animal sacrifice. So you need to have an ox or calf to sacrifice, so then your sins are cleaned. So say all your life going to kill millions of animals, Christ died once and for all. We do not need to spill more blood. Christ did it for all. So when I see this, I know this is Luke. And this is our guy that we're going to talk more about today. This is the eagle. The eagle is famous for seeing things from above. The eagle, all of these are people on earth. You see the difference? All these unique features, but none of them can see from above. All of them, they walk on earth. They can look above, they cannot see from above. So John is very unique about his perspective in his writings, in his gospel. He sees things from a different perspective. That's why when we study the Bible, when we study the 4 Gospels, we actually study the 3 Gospels together, and we isolated John. John is studied as his own unique way of writing. Why? Because the 3 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, they have a lot of similarities you see in them. And that's why in the biblical studies, we call them synoptic Gospels. And the word synoptics mean you can see them together because there is a lot of similarity. But poor John, you cannot say that about John. John has to be his own way. And you will see that when you study John, that many stories, only in the Gospel of John, you will not see it in any of the other Gospels. You will see that many stories in the Gospel of the other 3 Gospels, John did not care to mention about. And why this all about? Why I started this sermon to teach you about the power of art in the church. That's really was the way to display our faith. Remember, one time when I took a group to Egypt and we went to some different early church, and I told some of the people there, said, I can tell which church belongs to the western side and which church belongs to the eastern side from just looking at the structure of the church and when I look at the icons. And one of these, like, I'm not a magician. It's all based on knowledge. It's like if you go to a church, the structure of the church tells you if you are on the eastern side, on the eastern side. One example of that, like when you see some of the ancient icons, and you see Christ is like doing like this, or Christ doing like this. This is not just Christ being cool, you know. One time he's doing like this one. This is a big theological problem in the church history. What we call the problem of the Christology. When the church divided between East and the West about Christ being one nature or two nature. So when you draw the image of Christ, and when you do it this way, that's maybe you are on the one eastern side. If you do it on this way, that means you are on the western side. Why I'm saying all of that? To tell you that there is a power in the art, in the layout of the church. When you go to a church and see 12 pillars in a church, it's not just to look cool or have the Roman style or the Greek style. The 12 pillars is a referral to the 12 disciples. So everything, the layout of the church, everything has a meaning. And again, I know we have a lot of prejudice as Protestants because we are far away from this tradition. But this is the church tradition that exists 100 years before us. We cannot just say, oh, we are Protestant today. We do not care about that. It is part of our tradition. And it is very powerful when we try to understand where we came from. So as you were seeing this image that we were talking about, this image of the different ones. But that's when you have the idea is, what is Luke is trying to say? What is John is trying to say? Then you have a better idea of reading the gospel. As today, as we heard this and we heard the story about these disciples, we talk about Philip and Nathaniel and how they came to Christ. And we do not understand why John is making a big deal about that. As you see all the other gospels trying to teach you about what Christ did and how people were amazed by that. But John really more the one that's looking from above, the eagle eye, that sees in a bigger context, but also sees through a sharp way as an eagle. So he say John is going to tell you the story of Christ from a different perspective. John is going to go deeper, not only about, look, Christ did an amazing thing, did these miracles, and that John will tell you what you cannot see by your eyes. John that's why many people call him, he's the mystical writer of the gospel. He's the guy that will not just only stick with facts, that 1 + 1 is 2, and that's it. He's not the one that's only trying to argue by logic, but he will try to say there is something bigger than logic that we call the spiritual world. And this is why in the story you will find this many confrontation between, can we be skeptical sometimes? Can we be even be critical? Can we be rational? At the same time have room to be a disciple of Christ? John is doing this, bringing this really hard things together. When he told us about these people, when he told us about the story of Philip, who just came easily to Christ and said, yep, we know you are the guy. Let's go and have a party. That's an easy disciple. But the other guy was not an easy disciple, Nathaniel. He was really saying hard things, very prejudiced things. He's the guy who said, are you convincing me that anything good can come out of Nazareth? Nothing. This city has a horrible history in my mind. And you're telling me that the Messiah is coming from there? There's no way. So Nathaniel was a guy that started with many skeptical things. And it's my question to all of you is being skeptical sometimes is something good or bad? I think we'll all think about it's good to believe and not be skeptical. But at the end of this book of John, you have a big debate that you will not find in any other of the Gospels. The story of Thomas encountering Christ after the resurrection. When Christ told him, come, he did not say how bad you are, you should be out, you would not deserve to be my disciple. But actually John did a very good job at highlighting the story of one of the Christ's disciples, Thomas, say, I cannot believe unless I do what? I touch. The logic. I need something I can touch, I can feel, I can see. That's my human way of proving that maybe I will buy your product. But John was trying to say that even Christ accepted, but there is another way that you cannot see. There is another level of things that you cannot measure by your ways, human being. Yes, eyes is given to see things, and eyes to touch and use all the senses that's around you. But John is talking about what if there is something that's beyond what your senses can feel or touch. And that's what John is really all about. If you, anytime in the future when you go and read the book of John, read it from this perspective. He is this guy that's used reason and logic and philosophy, but he say, but it is not enough. Because in God's word, there are things that's beyond our limitation. That's why he's just bringing the story about Nathaniel when he started this and say like, how can you believe in this guy? He started with really a harsh way, even saying like, I did not like the city you are from. I didn't like who you are. And Christ did not really turn him away. Christ said, I saw you. I know you. And this, as we see here, as we know that Mark is the oldest gospel, as we were talking about in the picture that you have in your hand. Mark is the oldest. But really the last written book was John, the Gospel of John. And I don't know, sometimes I feel, is it really when we feel that we live too long and we feel like we see many things. It's on one side it's good, but on the other side that we see many things that's good and bad. And we see that when John lived to be the last one of the disciples, we believe that his gospel was written around 90 AD. So he saw the church is growing, but when you see the growth, he saw a lot of heresies, a lot of bad theology and bad religion. He saw also a fight between Christians. As he saw the church is growing, with any growth there is always a challenge. So when John writes down his story and testimony to the church, he writes with a different perspective that I lived longer, I saw more, I saw things that upset me, and I saw things that made me happy. So as we see that John is giving us a long story about his life, he's telling us how he sees things from a different perspective. It is the divine perspective. I want to say, I want you to see and to feel God not only by your limitings, but knowing there is a divine perspective. So as we see today in the story about these disciples of Philip, Nathanael, Christ, and others, this is the story of friends who just walking together, they share life together, they eat together, and suddenly they are divided about how to see this new guy we call the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Philip was the easy one. Said like, okay, you meet the requirement. You meet what we heard from our fathers about who the Messiah is. You are the Messiah. And then he came to Nathanael and said, come, join us. Come and see. He's a good guy. He did not know Nathanael is different from him. So I did not buy things easily. I doubt things. I study things very hard. I did not just go and throw myself behind somebody that you call the Messiah. And what I love about this story is the story about all of us has a place in God's heart. We may do not see it this way when we look at each other. But when you look at the example of Philip as being the easy disciple, the disciple that we just got it very quickly, welcome and make everybody happy. Nathanael is like many of us, difficult. He's not going to be easy to hear things. He's not going to buy your product easily. He's going to give you a very, very hard time. Above that, he's harsh. He's not afraid sometimes to say things that upsets you. But this guy is really, he made a great testimony, more than even Philip. We know that Philip followed Christ and everything. Everybody's happy, no problem. But this guy who sounds like a troublemaker in his story, and he's so difficult, and even to the point to be prejudiced when he described Christ as coming from a bad place. And how many times we judge each other this way. He has this generalizing idea about because Christ is from the city, then there is nothing good can come out of this city. But the story today is about Christ accepts all of us, those who come like this to Christ, and those who walk very slow, those who will give Christ a hard time, will give us a hard time. But the idea, the love in the story that all of us has a place in God's heart. Those who run very quick and go quick to God, and those who will walk slowly like a turtle, and they are very doubtful about every step they take. We judge each other. In God's way, He see like Everybody take their steps according to their own pace. Everybody run according to their mind and according to their will. So God does not judge. God sees and understands. God knows where you are coming from. God knows what may make you really paralyzed or make you very slow or make you very doubtful or skeptical or even suspicious. And God, in all of these things, He understands you. He's holding your hands and understands, I do not judge you. I know where you are coming from. So while we see Philip is a good example of the one that accepts Christ easily, Nathanael is the hard one. So we see different styles of discipleship, different styles to be a good follower of Jesus Christ. The easy acceptance or the one that's really full of doubt, criticism, clear to some point where he can be really offensive. He has his own mind that's already set up and it's very hard to change his mind. He's rational. You have to debate things. And the reaction that I love from Philip when Philip told him, he was supposed, I imagine like if somebody like this for me, I will go into debate. I say like, how dare can you make this comment about this? This is not fair. This is not logic. And I'll go try to debate him idea versus idea. But do you know what Philip told him? Told him, come and see. This is the secret code of the story. You know, this is my story that I love Christ. I experienced the revelation of God through Christ. But at the same time, I'm not saying this is going to be the same way for you. How many times we love Christ and we love to bring people to Christ, but how many times we want to create the same story? Because we want them to come to Christ in the same way we came. In the same way we show love to God. While this will take you into a very dangerous place, you will see that this person failed to meet God's love. You do not understand because God has His own way. So Philip told him a wonderful thing. I'm not here to debate with you. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to tell you that my product is better than your product. I'm here to simply come and see. And when you come and see, you encounter this light, and it is your story. It's going to be your story with Christ, Nathanael. It's not going to be another story of Philip. It's going to be each of us have a unique story to tell and to live with Christ. And the story ended with a wonderful thing when Nathanael made this statement. Nathanael told Christ statement that's full of revelation. The first, he called him Rabbi. It's a big word. This is not, it's translated like a teacher. But for a good Jew, you do not give it to anybody. You give it to somebody that touched your heart through the teachings and really you honor them, so you call them Rabbi. So the first thing that Nathanael, when he started to move from being prejudiced and felt the love of Christ, he told him Rabbi. The second thing, he told him the Son of God. And the third thing, King of Israel. And why all this big revelation? So the first one, he said, through the teaching, through the seeing of your life and your way, I was touched by that. You are truly the Jewish Rabbi. And we said, you are the Son of God because this is the place that nobody can be given. There is something special about you. There was something special about Christ. Those who were able to live and see and feel. You cannot transfer that through the TV or through an article or through a debate. There is something about human being next to each other, physically exist in the same area to experience something that cannot be captured on papers or even on TV or on camera. Something that's spiritual. Something that you cannot measure. Only when you experience each other in the same place as body, as flesh, as honest human being. So he called him the Son of God. And he called him the King of Israel. And in many ways, when the word King of Israel mentioned in the Old Testament or even other Gospels, mean the royal guy. But he was actually here, he was referring to him as the King of Israel who brings who brings fairness into the world. He was not talking in Christ as he's another David or another Saul or Solomon. He was talking about the true King that will make humanity experience the truth about being Christ-centered. And today, as I try to close this sermon with you about this wonderful story, to use all things, to use art, to use history, to use all our background, all these should not be wasted, should be uplifted and respected. We should remember that all our faith started with a very powerless people, with people that you can count on your fingers, that invaded the whole world through love and through grace. Through this all many missionaries who goes around the world and spread the love of God. Not by trying to, when you go to Africa or to go to any place, try to remove all the traditions and not respect it, but understand that you can work with that. When you go and try to show Christ's love to people, do not hold the bread in one hand and the Bible in one hand. Let people know that if you have an access to offer bread and knowledge, you do it, regardless, even if they want to hear about Christ or not, if they want to follow your religion or not. Because the powerful thing that when they ask you, why are you acting this way? This is not normal. This is not how humans do to each other. Human, if they give you one thing with their right hand, they want to take million things by their left hands. Why are you doing this with me? And this is really the profound of Christianity, is doing goodness for goodness. And we trust that the Spirit works through us. Work through, even if just offering you help and support, not to say I'm better than you. Not because I'm hiding something behind the other hand and I want to say, yep, if you want to take this, you have to take this. This is not Christianity. This is what many companies do when they trick you to buy products and then find down the road it's a bad product. Christianity is not a bad product. It's a good product. We should not worry about the advertisement and the commercial and how to make it look beautiful from the outside, because it is beautiful inside. But we need to act in this way and let people know that while all the goodness is coming from, we are not different from them. On one side, we were so controlled by the dark side in many ways, but only God's grace. That's what made me disciple, a follower of Jesus Christ. And naturally, if we live this life and love Christ in this way through actions and not only words, not through putting makeup to make things up, but really by being who you are, believe me, people will wonder and will ask, can I join your team? Can I join your religion? Can I join this guy that who really make things unbelievable and can change people, not only from the outside, because he sees your heart. Amen.